Did you know that you can survey your audience before your Zoom meeting even starts? You can ask a question, you can find out what they are thinking without needing a Google form or external tools or even a long onboarding process. Well, Zoom actually lets you do that. Today, I'm going to show you how to use Zoom surveys to collect answers before the meeting even begins. And you can also use them for when the meeting is taking place and get real-time feedback. Your participants can even fill out the survey using their mobile device. So let's get started. So it all starts here inside your Zoom web portal. And as you can see over here on the left-hand side of the screen, all the way down that left side, you have all the different types of tools that are included in your account. And we are here on surveys. So once you click there, the surveys area of your account is actually broken down into 3 different categories. And you see those across the top. First of all, you see all types, then you see surveys, and then you see the last 2, which are polls and quizzes. And yes, we're here to create a survey together, which is the item that we're going to create that you can share out even before your Zoom meeting starts. But that survey is actually included in the area that Zoom calls surveys. So just remember that. And when we get to polls and quizzes, that's going to be in another video. So let me know in the comments if you're like, yes, I want more. Put polls and quizzes because those are launched inside the live meeting. And then you can even quiz them if you teach them like continuing education courses, perfect for that. So just beware that the surveys category over there on the left includes polls and quizzes. Okay, we're past that. Now let's create one together. So using the blue button in the upper right corner, go ahead and click create, and then you're going to choose survey and then click create again. So now on this screen, we're going to start at the top and work down as we fill it in. The very, very top where you see that bold header where it says untitled, that's just going to have a number after it incrementally for your own account. Yours could say 2, yours could say 102. It's just a temporary title and you need to change it so that you know what this survey is when it sits in your library. So we're going to click there and we're going to delete that. And I like to use surveys that are used at the beginning and it has something like tell us about either yourself, tell us about yourself, and you can ask them what their hobbies are. Sometimes that's a great way to open up the conversation before they even get to the meeting. But I like to know what equipment they're going to be using and bringing to the Zoom meeting. So that for me is very important because I teach how to use Windows computers, how to use Mac computers, and how to use your microphones and speaker and equipment and lighting. So I like to ask those questions so I know about them before they show up. I can also use one of these surveys right as they get into the waiting room. I can also use one of these surveys at the beginning of the meeting or at the middle of the meeting or even at the end. Very versatile tool this is. So after that, you can indicate whether you want to use an internal name. And that would just be if you needed to see in your library that this is actually the, gathered data for the, first quarter session. Like let's say you have a lot of that tell us about your equipment. Maybe you want to gather this survey for different groups. So you can use an internal title that they don't see. The one up above, they will see. So then the next thing is the description, which is optional. And again, this is where sometimes you have to describe to yourself what this survey does. If you have a lot of them and you want to remember for yourself what you put together. So, we gather the details about computer type and Zoom account type. For instance, it can be whatever you want. That would be an example. Furthermore, we come upon our first question. So you click there and then it opens up where you must delete that placeholder text. And we're going to ask our first question. So, what type of device are you using for Zoom meetings? And then if I was making this survey for today to give to them during the event, I might say, what type of device are you using today? So again, The wording is completely up to you. And then over there on the right, you see single choice. Well, that is the type of question. So I am going to give them options to choose from, kind of like a multiple choice that we know about, right? In test taking, where it's A, B, C, D, or E, and you only get to pick one. Well, that's what Zoom calls single choice. If you were to choose multiple choice, you can see now it has a little check mark as opposed to the other one, which had a little circle. The one with the multiple choice means that they get to pick multiple. And actually, for this one, I'm going to choose the multiple choice type of question because as I give them options, like for instance, a Windows computer and then a Mac computer, typically you wouldn't have both. Some of my participants do. Some of them that actually came to the Zoom Business Academy did bring both because they wanted to learn how to bring different kinds of devices into the same meeting. So sometimes it happens, but a lot of the time they will have the computer and then they'll also have either an iPhone or an Android phone. So I do like to find out about their devices. And I can also give, like, this would be like your Samsung, your Motorola, and I can make this longer if I wanted to, LG and so on. And then finally, I can also give them something like a tablet. If I want to know specifically, I can say iPad, and you can see right underneath, what am I clicking where it says add choice. So I can make this list longer. And I do like to put on a Chromebook because using Zoom with Chromebooks is a little different. So it's good to know because the application is installed a little differently just because Chromebooks are not the same operating system as Windows or Mac. So that brings us to the bottom here where you can see there's two switches, required. And yes, I want to make sure they have to fill this question in. So I'm going to choose required. And then you can do something which is called add weights to choices. And this is to add weights to each option where the responses will generate an average score based on those selected weights. So that's not for our example right now. That is for a unique circumstance. And that brings me to the bottom right corner where you see I could add an image in here. Maybe I'm giving different examples and I want to put a picture of what model iPhone that I'm referring to. Maybe you're referring to a specific location or office and you want to put a picture of your location. Hey, you could do any of this that you want. Then in the bottom right corner next to that is a 3-dot icon. And when you click there, this lets you use some other functions like duplicate the question if you wanted another question similar to this and you didn't want to have to write everything, or you could just delete an extra question if you had one. So these buttons will be on every question going forward. I do want to point out these two columns of buttons on the right. If you were noticing, you're like, well, I'll look at that iPad. I should have put iPad above tablet because typically when people come to my Zoom classes, my live classes, they want to learn how to use specifically an iPad. They're very popular for teaching and they'll bring an iPad. So I'm going to put that above tablet and I can move these around with those little grid icons. Notice how my pointer changes to a 4-way pointing arrow when I'm right on top of it. I'm going to click and hold, and then I'm going to drag, and I can drag that option above where it was. So you can rearrange these as well. Nice feature. The trash can just means if you had one there that you didn't want, you could click the trash can, and then that option will be deleted. All right. Now that leads us to the very bottom. Surveys can have multiple questions. You can have multiple surveys available in your library. So there's going to be many questions that you can gather together. If you wanted to add another question on, like I like to know what type of Zoom account you're using. So I'm going to put that here. And then I'm going to change it to single choice because they only get to pick one here. And I like to start with basic, free, and then put on the pro and paid. And then I like to add on some of the other ones, which does raise their intrigue. They're like, what's that? Okay, so those choices look pretty good now. I can get a good idea of my audience. I'd like to know if they're using any add-ons, and I could add more options here if I wanted to. Again, I'm going to make it required. Now you can see here where it says show as dropdown. If I wanted to, I could make this a drop-down menu of choices rather than having all the choices appearing on the form, which just means if all the choices are appearing, people have to scroll down to make sure they see all of them and then submit your form. So it's up to you. It just changes the look of it. Now that brings our attention to the upper right corner of the screen where you see a bunch of buttons. And the first button is the settings. When you bring those out, this lets you require answers to be anonymous. So if you didn't want to collect who it was from, you could do that. Mine is grayed out. And if yours is too, you want to go visit your settings inside your web portal to look to see where surveys are and make sure if you do want to alter that setting, if it's grayed out here, it means that it's set there in your admin settings. So check that out. And then of course you could say whether you wanted the questions numbered or not. That's just a check mark there and a setting, a formatting choice. You can also show the question type. Now that's nice with multiple choice and single choice to show that. And then there is this feedback statement or blurb, we'll call it. Feedback after submission. So after they filled it out, it says, thank you so much for taking the time to complete the survey. Your feedback really makes a difference. So it could be something like, thank you so much for taking the time to answer our questions. We look forward. So something like that, where you could say, I'm looking forward to you. You can put whatever message you want in there. Underneath there, the languages set at the top of the list. So if you are looking to use some of Zoom's tools in other languages, many of those languages are supported. And then that ends settings. So we're going to close that. And then the next button is a little paint palette. And that paint palette lets you theme this Zoom survey. So not just a white background with black text. You could choose a color that represents your branding. You can also upload an image. So this is where you can bring in a graphic that you have created in another program, such as Canva. I use Canva a lot for creating graphics. And when you go find it, click save, and then it's placed at the top. So it's a nice way to present your logo, maybe the name of your company, or maybe the name of the event. And notice here on the right in the margin, there are recommended sizes for that graphic. So take note that the recommended image dimensions at the time of this recording that Zoom is telling us is 720 by 200. And the maximum image size is 2 megabytes. So that's important because if you get something really higher quality than that, that's pretty good. But higher quality, Zoom won't accept it. And so now that ends the theme section, and we'll click the little X there. Now, next to the paint palette is the little eyeball. And when you click the little eyeball, this lets you preview what it'll actually look like to the person filling it in. You can actually try it out and click the little buttons, and you can see that you can only choose one in the single choice, and you can choose more than one in the multiple choice, and so on. And then in the upper left corner, it has a little left pointing arrow where it says preview. That's how you get back to where you were. Now, at the very bottom, so even though we've turned on all this branding and the banner and the colored background, you could still add questions. So at the very bottom, it says add question. Now, you might want to collect their name or some of their thoughts prior to coming to your event. And so in this question type, you might want to set this one to short answer. And so you can collect their first and last name and make that required. They're already registered for your class, so this shouldn't be an issue to put their name in. It's actually a good double check to make sure who you got answers from are actually coming. And then we're going to choose another question. So add another question. And this time the question type is long answer. So in this case, you can say, so something like that. Please tell us your questions or comments prior to attending our event. And then they're going to get an area that they can type in. Now, this time, you don't have to make this one required. So they don't have to fill that in, but it gives them a spot to fill it in. And the character count can be much greater when it's long answer. So now watch this. I'm going to click the eyeball to preview it. And when I scroll down, you can see that the first and last name box is above the comment box. And so it gives them this input area to give us their comments. So now finally, in the upper right corner, you're going to click save. And that's going to save your changes. It displays for you the share link, extremely important. There it is. And all you have to do is copy this link and place it in your email or your onboarding email or your social media post. Maybe it's in a business group on social media where everybody's alerted to this event. And I say, please, we'd like you to fill out our survey prior to attending. And then as answers are coming in, you can still go back to people and say, we've only gotten half of the answers. Please fill it out. And this will be the link that they click. Notice here above the link is a little box that says shorten URL. That's the acronym for website links. URL, Uniform Resource Locator. If you ever wanted to know, when you shorten it, it is much tidier. Look at that. So if you needed to put it, even a survey link can be placed in the chat inside your Zoom meeting. It can be placed in the chat in a waiting room chat. Yes, it can be placed in a comment thread of a social media post. So just imagine if it wasn't shortened. Look at this very long link. It's got a lot of characters. And if one of those characters was missing, like on the end, it wouldn't work. So sometimes, actually most of the time, I find shortening the link better, and then click the blue copy button. And that has just copied the link into your clipboard. And now all you have to do is go over to your email and paste it in. So now next to the copy button, there is a little drop down. And this is important that it says anyone with the link, because when you put this link out there, it will be shared with anyone who gets it. So be careful where you put it. I mean, you'll get answers from anyone who clicks on it, obviously, which could be good for you. If it says the other one where it's anyone and then it might have your name, that's inside only your contacts in your Zoom account. So that's very different. And then finally at the bottom, probably one of my favorite features is that it has created a QR code for you. And so all you have to do is hit the download. It downloads the image for you and it lets you take that image and place it anywhere. You could place it inside your waiting room. Waiting rooms in Zoom take images. You can place it on a flyer that is placed inside your physical office. So they know that they're coming to this virtual event and you want them to scan it with their phone. Very convenient. You can also just copy it if you wanted to, and then go paste it inside your presentation. Maybe this is a survey when you're welcoming them and you have your presentation up on the screen inside your Zoom meeting. You can say, please take out your phones at this time and scan this QR code. Very nice, Zoom. From this point, if you realized you forgot to put something else in your survey, click this little 3-dot icon, click edit, and then you go right back in and it starts all over. You go all the way down the bottom, add your next question, and then make sure you click save in the upper right corner. Once you click save and you're done, you're going to click at the bottom there where it says in blue, back to surveys. Watch. This brings you back to your surveys library, and this is inside your Zoom account. And when you click on the surveys button across the top, it filters out just your surveys. Again, you can see all types, polls, quizzes, and surveys, or you can see just your surveys. And there is the one we just created together. Tell us about your equipment, gather data for the first quarter. So you can see the title that is internal is in a lighter font type for you. So you can see. So it helps you if you have a lot of these surveys. So you're like, oh, which one was that? Because they might vary a little bit between each other. And at this point, if you want to pause the video, definitely go open up your own Zoom account and look inside your library and locate where this is. And yours might be empty at this time. So all you're going to have to do is just go back to the beginning and click create. But let me take you to the end where I tell you, what do we do with this library? This library of surveys is going to be available to you all the time. So as you realize that you've got to go get a survey and place it out there for an audience, you're going to come in here and notice that the publish button must be lit. So it's got to be turned on for this survey to be accepting answers. To the right of there, it does tell us how many responses have already come in. This is brand new, so there's only 0. Then to the right of there is also the link to copy it. So if you didn't grab it on that previous page, you can copy the link here. And then again, you can shorten the link just like we showed earlier. After the link button, there's two more buttons. There's one with a little zigzag arrow. I'm going to get to that in a moment. That's very important, so don't go anywhere. And then finally, there is the 3-dot icon. And when you click there, this gives you many different options. You can go right into edit. You can duplicate this survey, make a copy of it, and then maybe change some of the questions. You can delete this survey if it's no longer needed. And then finally, you can go right to the share, or even you can preview it in a new tab. Now, as I mentioned, this zigzag arrow, this is for looking at the results. You want to see what the analytics are, how many people have filled it out. And so I can't show you that one for a survey that has 0 responses. So let's take a little walk with me down here. You can see all of my different surveys. And I also have pages of surveys. So if you see at the bottom here, you can go to your next page and your next page. So all of your results will be in here. When you see one with results and you click that little zigzag, this will bring you into the results screen where you can see, this is one where I have a survey that just asks for feedback, and they're asked yes or no, what they thought, and a very simple, easy survey. And it tells you at the top how many responses. You get an overview. At the very top, you can look at the results by the day and time that you sent it out or launched it. And then there is that last tab across the top where you can view the results even by respondent. In the middle of the results page are bar charts and pie charts, and you can turn those on and off using the little options button there. So if you wanted to see the results, these results came in 100% unanimous. So everybody answered yes. So that's why you're seeing it that way. Other times people will answer a different way based on what you ask them. Like, I can't wait to see my results for Windows computers, Mac computers. I wonder what the statistics will be. And this is what surveys will show you. In the upper right corner of the results screen is a red button that allows you to close the survey to any responses. This link could be out there, right? You've shared it, and this makes the link no longer live. So if someone clicked it, it'll say the survey has been closed. And you could reopen it, but that's a great way to switch it off. If you've told people, I must have your answers in by a certain date, you have control over that. And right next to there, you can download the results into a spreadsheet. It will give it to you in a CSV type format. You could look at all your results, or you can even do it by date. If this survey was launched, in a sense, clicked by people on certain days. And then finally, you can look at these results without the chart, if for some reason you desired that. And that's what Zoom surveys are all about. And as you can see, they're built into your account. And hey, you can't ask a question around here if you don't know what you don't know. So make sure you like and subscribe and go take a look at the other videos on this channel. And I'll see you in the next one.